I'm Vanessa, 32, and for a long time, I believed I had everything handled. After years of hustling as an architect, I'd carved out the life I wanted. My space, my pace, my rules. But one warm summer evening, everything shifted. I'd gone to my parents' house expecting an easy, quiet dinner, and instead, my brother dropped a bombshell. "We're moving in Saturday," he announced with that smug grin of his, voice dripping confidence. Mom and Dad already said yes. His wife nodded, eyes sparkling with expectation, while my parents sat there, looking way too pleased with themselves, like it had all been agreed upon. I froze. My home, my sanctuary wasn't theirs to claim. "You didn't even ask me," I said sharply. My brother laughed it off. "Come on, family shares, right?" His wife added softly, "It's for the best." And my parents leaned forward, faces full of that old, familiar pressure I'd known my entire life. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just about space. It was about them walking all over everything I'd built for myself. When moving day actually came and they started unloading into my house, I picked up my phone. My brother's grin disappeared. His wife's eyes went wide. My parents traded panicked looks. "What are you doing?" my brother snapped. I didn't answer. I just held my ground. My heart was pounding, but for the first time in a long while, I felt control flicker back to life. What happened next? Let's just say it wasn't the end. Not of their plans, and not of mine. Hit that like button if you've ever had to stand up when family pushed too far. Drop a comment and tell me your story. When did you have to draw the line? Let's talk. Growing up just outside Portland wasn't simple. I'm Vanessa, and my childhood was a constant tug-of-war for attention in a home where the rules were never the same for me as they were for my brother, Kyle Ford. Our parents, Nancy and David Ford, poured everything into Kyle, their golden boy, no matter how often he messed up. When I was 7, I'd watch him, 3 years older, roughhouse indoors until something broke, like the time he shattered a vase. Mom just laughed and said, "Boys will be boys." But when I spilled a glass of juice once, Dad's glare made me feel like I'd committed a felony. Their favoritism wasn't hidden. It was part of our daily life in that small, weathered house on the edge of Portland, Maine. Kyle thrived on it. He'd skip chores, knowing Mom would excuse him with, "He's tired from school." Meanwhile, I'd be at the sink after dinner, hands pruned from the dishwater, while Kyle sprawled on the couch, making Dad laugh with stories about his basketball games. By middle school, I was bringing home straight A's, but my report cards barely got a nod. Kyle's C's, on the other hand, earned him a pat on the back, and sometimes a new pair of sneakers for trying hard. I once overheard Mom telling a neighbor, "Vanessa's fine. She's independent. Kyle needs us more." It stung, but I swallowed it down and promised myself I'd prove I didn't need their praise. When I was 12, I found my escape, a library book on architecture. The clean geometry of blueprints, the logic in every design. It was a world where effort, not favoritism, determined success. I used to fill my notebooks with sketches of houses, imagining one that would someday be mine alone. Kyle, meanwhile, soaked up every bit of our parents' indulgence. At 15, he wrecked Dad's old pickup during a joyride. Instead of grounding him, they bought him a bike to keep him out of trouble. That same year, I walked to school and tucked away my lunch money for art supplies. Their uneven treatment shaped who we became. I learned to depend on myself. Kyle learned he could always lean on them. When I was 14, I spent an entire summer building a treehouse in the backyard. Weeks went into measuring, sawing, hammering. Each straight nail felt like a victory. Kyle laughed, calling it childish, and Mom and Dad never even stepped outside to look. A month later, Kyle half-heartedly started a birdhouse for a school project, and suddenly they were out there for hours, showering him with praise for his creativity. I stopped showing them my sketches after that. It wasn't bitterness. I just accepted they'd never see me the way they saw him. By high school, I was working weekends at a local diner, saving for college. Kyle drifted through those years confident Mom and Dad would clean up whatever mess he made. That pattern followed us into adulthood. Now 35, Kyle married Lisa Ford, a 34-year-old office clerk, and they have a 10-year-old daughter, Hannah. Their lives are tangled in overdue bills and unstable jobs, yet Kyle still believes family should bail him out. Lisa, quiet and faithful, goes along, convinced that my success ought to be shared. I, on the other hand, poured myself into architecture. After college, I landed a position designing homes in Portland. Every project moved me closer to my dream, a home that was completely my own. My first big opportunity came with a community center, design that earned local recognition and helped me save for a down payment. Every decision I made was about independence, something Kyle never learned. So when he came up with his latest plan, I wasn't surprised. Drowning in financial trouble, he saw my house as his family's fresh start. A better place for Hannah, a rescue for him and Lisa. But it wasn't his to claim. That sense of entitlement had been planted long ago. Nurtured by our parents' favoritism, I was the one who learned to stand on my own. At 32, after 10 years of long nights and skipped vacations, I finally found the perfect house, a $500,000 place just outside Portland, Maine. My designs for homes and community spaces had built both my reputation and my savings. I handled every step myself, the mortgage talks, the signing, the moment I stood in those empty rooms, proud that I'd done it alone. The house wasn't just wood and windows. It was proof that I didn't need anyone's help to make it. To celebrate, I planned a housewarming party in the backyard garden. I invited Mom, Dad, Kyle, Lisa, and Hannah, plus extended family, my cousin Ethan Stone, his sister Sarah Brooks, my uncle Mark Ford, and my aunt Diane Morgan. I arranged tables with snacks, strung up lights, and played soft music for the warm summer afternoon. During the tour, I showed off the open kitchen and my cozy workspace nook. Ethan admired the design, saying it suited me perfectly. Sarah snapped photos grinning. Mom and Dad offered polite nods, their compliments brief, as if they couldn't understand why it meant so much. While we ate in the garden, Kyle leaned in. "This place would be perfect for us and Hannah," he said, voice too casual to hide his intent. Lisa chimed in, "It's way bigger than our apartment. Hannah would love it here." I smiled tightly, but my shoulders stiffened. Their words felt like a quiet claim. Mom nodded faintly. Dad stayed silent, eyes fixed on Kyle. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was harmless talk. But unease crept in. As the evening went on, Kyle kept pressing. "You've got so much space," he said, gesturing toward the garden. "It's made for a family," Lisa added. "Our place is too cramped." This would be a game changer. Nearby, Hannah chased a ball, blissfully unaware of the tension. Kyle's words weren't admiration. They were probing. I shifted the topic to a work project, but he interrupted. "You're lucky, you know. Not everyone gets opportunities like this." The remark stung, reducing years of work to mere luck. I gripped my glass, forcing a calm smile. Then I noticed Lisa standing by the door, her eyes lingering on the key rack. A moment later, Mom pulled me aside. "Kyle's having a hard time," she said softly. "A house like this could really help them." Her tone carried that old, familiar expectation, that my success was meant to be shared. Dad said nothing, which was as good as agreement. Uncle Mark and Aunt Diane added vague platitudes about family sticking together, their smiles tight and uneasy. Ethan caught my eye, understanding without a word. Sarah tried a lighthearted joke to ease the mood, but it fell flat. When the party ended, I couldn't shake the heaviness. Kyle and Lisa's comments hadn't been casual. They were testing how far they could go. Mom's words and Dad's silence confirmed it. They saw my home as something communal, but I'd earned every inch of it, through late nights, careful saving, and sheer determination. As I locked the door that night, their hints echoed in my mind. I knew Kyle and Lisa wouldn't respect my boundaries, and I'd have to stand firm to protect what was mine. Friday dinners at Mom and Dad's were usually easygoing, but this one felt off the moment I walked in. I'd expected laughter, the smell of dinner on the stove, the usual comfort. Instead, the room was thick with tension. Mom, Dad, Kyle, Lisa and Hannah were already there, along with Ethan and Sarah. Mark and Diane, who often skipped these gatherings, were absent. I tried to keep the mood easy when I sat down, but Kyle's smirk warned me trouble was coming. Before the food even hit the table, he leaned forward and dropped his little bombshell. "We're moving into your place next week," he said, sounding almost proud of himself. Mom and Dad already agreed. Family helps family, right? My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "My house isn't up for grabs," I said flatly. "It's my home, Kyle, not some crash pad for you, Lisa and Hannah." His grin disappeared, replaced by a scowl. Lisa jumped in immediately, her tone sharp. "Vanessa, we need a stable home for Hannah. You've got all that space, why can't you share?" I took a slow breath, keeping my voice steady. I worked hard for that house. "It's mine, not a family timeshare. You don't get to choose who lives there." Kyle leaned back with a scoff. "You've always been selfish. This is about helping your niece. Mom's voice cut through before I could respond. Vanessa, your brother's struggling. You're doing well. Why can't you help him out? Her words hit like a slap, stirring up the old memories of favoritism I'd tried to forget. Dad nodded, adding quietly, That's what families do. I felt trapped. I've been taking care of myself since I was a kid, I said tightly. I'm not responsible for fixing Kyle's mistakes. Lisa's eyes narrowed. Hannah deserves better than our cramped apartment. You're choosing yourself over a child. The accusation stung, but I didn't back down. This isn't about Hannah, I said firmly. It's about you and Kyle expecting handouts. The room erupted. Kyle's voice rose as he accused me of being jealous. Mom called me ungrateful, saying I owed them for raising me. Dad stayed mostly silent, but his hard stare said enough. The weight of their judgment pressed down on me. It felt like I was a kid being scolded all over again. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan, sitting across the table. You're right to stand your ground. Don't let them guilt you. His words were a small lifeline, even if they didn't make the moment easier. Sarah, always the peacemaker, spoke softly. Can't we find a compromise? Maybe Vanessa can help in another way. But instead of calming things down, that only set Kyle off. Compromise? He snapped. She's sitting in a mansion and won't share a thing. My fists clenched under the table. It's not a mansion. It's my home. I paid for it. You don't get to demand it. Kyle gave a bitter laugh. You think you're better than us, don't you? Mom jumped in again, accusing me of tearing the family apart. Lisa kept throwing Hannah's name into the argument, like I didn't care about my niece. I glanced at Hannah, sitting quietly with her eyes fixed on her plate. She didn't deserve to be caught in this, but I wasn't the one dragging her into it. You're twisting things, I told Lisa. I love Hannah, but that doesn't mean you can take my house. The argument spiraled from there. Mom started listing every favor they'd ever done for me, like letting me stay at home during college, conveniently ignoring that I'd paid rent. Dad finally spoke again, his tone low. You're being stubborn, Vanessa. Kyle needs this. I shook my head, feeling drained. What Kyle needs is to take responsibility, not take my home. Sarah tried once more. Let's all cool off and talk later, she said gently. But Kyle cut her off. She's the problem, he barked. Ethan didn't speak again, but his quiet nod gave me strength. The room felt suffocating, their voices stacking on top of each other, blaming me for simply standing firm. By the end, I'd had enough. I stood up and grabbed my coat. My house is mine, I said, looking from Kyle to Mom and Dad. You don't get to decide what I do with it. Their words followed me as I walked out, ringing in my ears. But they'd crossed a line, and I wasn't giving in. My home was my boundary, and I'd protect it, no matter what they thought. Monday morning started out like any other workday, until the sound of a truck pulling into my driveway shattered the calm. Looking out the window of my Portland, Maine home, I froze. Kyle, Lisa, Mom, and Dad were unloading boxes. Hannah stood off to the side, unsure and quiet. My pulse spiked as Kyle pulled a key from his pocket, the spare that had gone missing after my housewarming. He started up the steps like he owned the place. What are you doing? I demanded, stepping onto the porch. You can't just show up and move in. Kyle smirked, twirling the key. We're family, Vanessa. Mom and Dad said it's fine. Hannah needs this, Lisa nodded. You've got plenty of room. It's for your niece. Mom's voice joined in, firm and commanding. You need to help your brother and your granddaughter. Dad stood by the truck, arms crossed. Silent, but clearly on their side. You stole my key, I said sharply. This is my house, not yours. Get out, Kyle laughed, brushing past me. We're already here. Stop being so dramatic. But I wasn't backing down. I took out my phone and called my lawyer, Karen Walsh, the same one who handled the purchase of my home. I need confirmation of my ownership. I said loud enough for them to hear. She verified that I was the sole legal owner and advised me to call the police if they refused to leave. Kyle ignored me and kept unloading boxes. Lisa pleaded, Vanessa, don't make this difficult. We're family, Mom chimed in again. You're being selfish. Think of Hannah. Their words hit all the old bruises, but I didn't waver. I called the sheriff's office. Within 20 minutes, Sheriff Thomas Perry pulled up in his patrol car. Calm and no nonsense. He listened as I explained. My family was trying to move in without permission, using a stolen key. Then he turned to Kyle. Sir, the sheriff said evenly, you need to leave. This is private property. Kyle's face flushed red, his voice climbing. This is my sister's house. We're family. The sheriff didn't budge. Doesn't matter. She's the legal owner. "You're trespassing!" He turned toward my parents. "You all need to leave, or I'll have to issue citations." Lisa's shoulders sank, her tone soft but sharp. "Vanessa, you'd rather call the cops than help your own family?" I shook my head. "You didn't ask for help. You tried to take." "There's a difference." Kyle hurled a box back into the truck, muttering, "You'll regret this." Mom stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Vanessa, we raised you better than this." "Kyle needs help," Dad finally spoke, his words heavy. "You're tearing this family apart." I stood my ground. "No, you're the ones crossing boundaries. My home isn't your solution." Sheriff Perry waited until everything was packed up. Hannah climbed into the truck, avoiding my eyes, and a dull ache hit my chest. She was trapped in their chaos. Lisa shot me a look full of disappointment, as if I'd betrayed her. Kyle slammed the door, still seething. Mom lingered, saying quietly, "You're choosing a house over your family." I didn't reply. I just watched as they drove away. The sheriff tipped his hat. "Call if they come back," he said before leaving. Once inside, I locked the door. My hands trembled, relief and exhaustion mixing together. I'd defended my home, but the price was steep. Their words, selfish, ungrateful, echoed in my head, stirring up years of old resentment. For a decade, I'd worked for this place. Long nights drafting blueprints, saving every dollar. To them, though, it was something to claim. Like my hard work didn't matter. Just like always, Kyle's needs came first. Standing in the quiet living room, I knew I'd done the right thing, even if it hurt. This house was my boundary, and I'd fought to keep it mine. But peace didn't last. The next evening, while sketching designs in my Portland, Maine home office, my phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications filled the screen. Kyle and Lisa had gone live on Facebook. Kyle's face appeared, angry and animated. "Vanessa's selfish," he said loudly. "She kicked us out." "Didn't even care about her own niece, Hannah?" Lisa nodded, eyes glassy. "She called the cops on her family." "Who does that?" My stomach twisted as I watched. Their words cut deep, but I kept scrolling, afraid of what came next. The comments section exploded. Mom wrote, "Vanessa's always put herself first. So disappointing." Dad added, "She's turned her back on family." Uncle Mark chimed in, "Hannah deserves better." Aunt Diane typed, "Shame on you, Vanessa." Soon, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years joined in. Old family friends from Portland, even distant neighbors. Everyone had an opinion. The live stream spread like wildfire, each comment calling me cold, selfish, heartless. I sat frozen, staring at the screen's glow, wondering how it had come to this. By morning, my inbox was flooded. My cousin Rachel messaged, "How could you do that to Kyle?" An old friend, Jenny, wrote, "I thought you were better than this." Even my great-aunt Clara sent a long text about being too proud to help Hannah. The messages piled up, echoing the same narrative. I was the villain, the one tearing the family apart. I felt completely alone, like the entire community had turned against me. Social media had turned a private fight into a public humiliation. I muted my phone, but the noise didn't stop. Then a message popped up from Ethan. "Don't let them get to you," he wrote. "They did this to me too. Guilt tripped me for not helping enough. You're not alone." His words were a lifeline. Ethan told me how years ago he'd faced the same pressure when he refused to bail Kyle out of a bad lease. "They always take his side," he texted. "You're right to protect your space." I thanked him. The weight in my chest eased just a little. Knowing someone understood made me feel less alone. Later, I checked the live stream again, now saved with hundreds of views. Kyle was still talking. "She abandoned Hannah for her fancy house," he said. Lisa added, "She doesn't care about family values." Then came Mom's comment, the one that hit hardest. "We raised her to be generous, but she's chosen greed." Aunt Diane piled on, "Hannah's the real victim here." Their words twisted everything, painting me as someone cruel and heartless. None of them saw the years I'd worked. The late nights, the savings, the sacrifices. They only saw Kyle's needs. More messages poured in. A distant cousin calling me stuck up. A family friend saying I'd hurt poor Hannah. My hands shook as I stopped reading. The people I'd grown up with now felt like a mob. I thought about posting my side, but what was the point? They'd already decided who I was. The weight of it all pressed down on me. For a moment I questioned myself. Was I too harsh? But then I remembered. The stolen key, the truck in my driveway, the way they refused to listen. No, I wasn't wrong. Ethan's messages kept me steady. "They'll move on," he wrote. "Stay strong." He reminded me of how he'd left Portland to escape their expectations and build his own life. Knowing he'd survived gave me strength. Their live stream and the messages hurt, but they didn't change the truth. My home was mine. I'd earned it. Their public shaming was just another attempt to control me, and I wouldn't let it succeed. That fall, I decided to heal. The betrayal, the guilt, the stolen key, it all weighed too heavily. So I started therapy with Dr. Ellen Reed, a calm, perceptive therapist. In our first session, I told her about Kyle's entitlement, my parents' favoritism, and Lisa's accusations. Dr. Reed asked, "What do you owe them?" The question stopped me cold. I realized then, my family had never respected my boundaries or my hard work. She helped me understand that protecting what I'd built wasn't selfish. It was necessary. I left that session feeling stronger, ready to move forward. I stopped answering Kyle's calls, ignored Lisa's texts accusing me of abandoning Hannah. When Mom messaged softly, "We're still family," and Dad insisted I make things right, I blocked them both. It hurt, but Dr. Reed's words stayed with me. Family doesn't mean endless obligation. By winter, I'd cut contact completely. Kyle, Lisa, Mom, Dad, the silence was heavy, but it gave me room to breathe. Their live stream eventually backfired. The community began seeing through it. My neighbor, Mrs. Carter, commented, "Vanessa worked for her home." "You can't just claim it," others agreed, pointing out Kyle's habit of asking for handouts. Their support dwindled. Without my home to rely on, they struggled. Kyle bounced between unstable jobs. Lisa went quiet online. Their refusal to plan for themselves caught up with them. As for Mom and Dad, losing me left them isolated, dependent on Kyle, who couldn't take care of them. Ethan told me they'd asked him for money, but he'd said no. Mom hinted at regret in messages to Sarah, but neither she nor Dad ever admitted how their favoritism toward Kyle had cost them. Their stubbornness left them alone, and I couldn't fix that. Therapy became my anchor. Dr. Reed helped me see that my parents had always dismissed my achievements in favor of Kyle's needs. My home, built from years of hard work, was mine, and setting boundaries wasn't loss. It was freedom. Ethan and I grew close again. Over coffee one morning, he said, "They'll never change, but you can." He was right. I began rebuilding my circle, new friends from work, a kind neighbor, a cousin who stayed neutral. I still missed Hannah's laughter, but I hoped she'd understand someday. The lesson was clear. Self-respect outweighs unhealthy family ties. My home symbolized independence, the line I refused to let anyone cross. Dr. Reed once told me, "Boundaries aren't selfish. They're essential." She was right. I'd built a life I was proud of, and I intended to keep it that way. To everyone listening, think about your own boundaries. Have you ever had to set them with family? What did you learn? Share your story below. Thank you for being here. Your support means everything. Please subscribe and stay with me for more stories about standing your ground.